Hey guys, welcome to part two of SU Rise Prioritization Framework for SaaS products. In the part one, I went over some of the basics like why you need a prioritization framework and what's different about the SaaS products. In this video, I'll talk about the limitations of Rise framework and show you how SU Rise framework makes a better business case and how to use it. Before we move ahead, I would like to remind you that you need an understanding of risk prioritization framework. If you are not familiar with this, I recommend you to click the link down in the description and get familiarized with this framework. So what are the limitations of the RISE framework? In the context of SaaS products, RISE is only a measure of features impact per time worked. It does not account for a business or the product strategy. So in order to make a better business case, I decided to bring in the source and the user personas in the scoring. And that's how it now measures the total business impact per time worked. Now, before we get into the formula and the calculations, I would first like to highlight on why is source important. So as a product manager, you will definitely want to make sure all the voices are heard. But when it comes to making a business impact, you have to ruthlessly focus only on what's most important. Believe me or not, you will get amazing ideas and feature requests from multiple sources. But depending on what you're trying to optimize on the product, you will need to weigh one of them higher over the other. So let's take an example of my company, RouteSpring. RouteSpring is a growth stage corporate travel management software. Being in a growth stage, expanding the market share is very important. And for that reason, the focus is on optimizing the customer acquisition. While we do that, we get tons of demands from the prospects that we are dealing with in the current times. And we want to make sure that we hear those voices and implement the changes on the product to win them over and convert them into a paying customers. At the same time, we have newly acquired paying customers and they are also sharing some feedback. And we don't want to disappoint them. So we may want to consider implementing some of the changes to keep them satisfied and happy so that they don't switch over to any other competing products. At the same time, because we are working on expanding the market share, we are also watchful of the competition. What is the company products building? What are the new features they are coming up with? Why they are winning in the market? Is there anything that we are at disadvantage of compared to them? So we also consider some of the features that competition brings into the market just to stay competitive in the market and make sure that we are still able to increase our market share. Depending on our situation and our product strategy, we consider these sources and these weights. Depending on your situation, you might want to consider more or maybe less number of sources, and your weights might differ than this. If you have any questions on how to decide on these weights, feel free to reach out to me and I'll be very happy to help you out there. Now, moving on to the next, like why is user persona important? As we discussed in the previous video, in a SaaS product, there are different types of personas involved in using the product. Every persona has a different sort of influence on the business. So it would make a completely different business case to build features for decision makers and the internal users. Here's an example of RouteSpring again. In our case, we found that decision maker will have the highest influence in our business. And at the same level, the internal admin will also have a great influence on the business because they need to support the customers as efficiently as they can. And then there is prospect and other users who are slightly lower in the ranking. And again, these are specific to our situation and our product and business strategy. These might be very different in your case, depending on how complex your product is or how simple your product is. So how to use SU Rise score? So for that, as we discussed, first you need to decide which sources and user personas you want to consider for your product and business strategy. Once you have that, then you would decide on the weights that you want to use for each source and user persona. And once you have that, then you can estimate the rise factors, which is reach, impact, confidence, and effort level that will go into building that feature. This is what we had used for our case. Once you have all these estimates, you can just put them into this formula and you will get the score. This will measure the total business impact per time worked, and that's what you would want to maximize. So once you have this, you would just sort the list from highest to lowest and identify your high priority items. In case you find some score surprising to your gut, you can consider making changes or just accept that your gut feeling was wrong. I do have this spreadsheet template link shared down in the description. Feel free to duplicate and modify it to your use. I hope it will make it easier for you to start using this framework, using this template. If you have any feedback or if you have any suggestions, feel free to get back to me and I'll be happy to consider them and help you out in your implementation. In the next video, I will talk about how the product lifecycle stage of the product will influence the source in the SU Rise scoring. In the meantime, if you have any questions, if you have any comments, feel free to reach out to me through any media as you prefer, and I'll be happy to get in touch with you. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you on my next video.